Good afternoon, everyone. I have to greet you to Ukraine Forum Center. Right now, we will talk about the situation in the combat area, and Hanna Maliar, Deputy Minister of Defense of Ukraine, will be the speaker, and Oleksii Hromov, Brigadier General, Deputy Head of the Operative Department of General Staff of Armed Forces of Ukraine. Please, Ms. Hanna. You see that our briefings have become regular. We do them on a weekly basis, and I bring more and more papers to publicly that MOD and Armed Forces of Ukraine could tell you about current work and regularly inform you about our news. There is a big war of Ukrainian nation for the freedom. 92nd day of full-scale invasion. I want to remind you that today, 8 years ago, on the 26th of May 2014, was the first fight for Donetsk Airport. Today, the whole world knows that Donetsk Airport is the symbol of resistance of Ukrainian military, Ukrainian warriors. Now, it's just the same. We can say the same for Azovstal defense, and for Mariupol and for Donetsk Airport defenders is a great illustration of our resistance and strive for freedom. Those historical episodes of Russian-Ukrainian war must be a total reminder for those who, in the fourth month of our struggle, gets traitor ideas for affiliating the aggressor. We reject the pacifism. We will fight to free our territories to the internationally recognized borders. And to keep the face for Putin, he can keep the face only by removing his troops from our territory. Regarding the topical situation, I will be very brief. In detail, you will hear that from representative of the armed forces. Right now, the aggressor has intensive fire impact on all the contact line in the depth of our defense of our military in Donetsk operative region, uses tactical rocket complex aviation and artillery, and the situation is difficult and has signs on further acuting. The occupant uses all the tools and means to occupy. The fights are maximally intense. The enemy assaults the positions of our troops in several directions, and we expect a very difficult and long time of war. And it's war, and we will suffer losses, indubitably. Now to MOD operations. MOD continues sustainable and rhythmical supplies of means for individual armed defense and means for armed forces. From 17th to 24th of May, when the briefings were talking about weeks. Regarding provision of detachments, we supplied over 19,000 armor vests, more than 12,000 of helmets, and 9,000 of shoes, and more than 9,000 of uniform sets. Within a day, we'll put over 7,000 of bulletproof vests on account. As we said on the previous briefings, we make a reserve for the armed forces to have it for at least 2 brigades minimum. In particular, now in the reserve, we have that stock. Especially attention we pay to providing the uniforms for our armed forces. We cooperate with Ukrainian producers closely that guarantee high quality and timely supplies. But regretfully, due to the war, we face certain difficulties in this process, and there is a bottleneck in this process. It's not only the capacities, it's also regretfully the absence of the work power, the personnel. Many people, left Ukraine because of the war, and the producers say that they lack qualified personnel in our situation, the one who make the uniform. Ministry of Defense also actively involved in other directions of supplies, also for supplying of housing in the field conditions. We make series of contracts for different tents, of different kind of tents. We're speaking about thousands of tents. We cannot say the exact figures, of course, for the enemy not to use it. At the selection of the supplier, we pay thorough attention to the requirements of quality. And right now, as we speak, the ongoing load is being unloaded for the tents. And also, the next one is for 320 tents. So Ministry of Defense has those rhythmical supplies, managed to make rhythmical supplies, regular supplies as necessary for armed forces of Ukraine. What regards the payment for the military service personnel, there are interesting figures. I want to inform you that over the period of the martial law, for the payments of servicemen in the military, MOD financed 121 billion of hryvnias. And speaking by month, for you to understand this comparison and how this financing is being increased, that in March we financed for February, and that was 20 billion. And if we speak about April, it's 38 billion. In May, that's payments for April, that's 51 billion. And in June, we plan to, the MOD plans to transfer for payments to the armed forces over than 64 billion hryvnia. To understand where the figure comes from, 64 billion is roughly the amount that we spent in 2021 for a year, for annum. Now we pay that in a month during the martial law. Also, considering that we're listened by the families of our service people from the military, I want you to recall that yesterday we aired the words of our Minister of Defense, Mr. Reznikov, what payments are made to our defenders and how it's done. And those materials are available publicly online. We put it in all our military informational resources. And I advise all the service people and their families to find that materials. It goes point by point how to get those payments and whom to address. And if you still have questions, you can. You're welcome to call the hotline of the Ministry of Department of Finance of MOD, and we process about 100 of applications a day, and we find solutions to all the stories, to all these situations. I want to say a few words about the current international context of Ministry of Defense. Yesterday, Ministry of Defense has a series of phone calls with vis-a-vis from other countries, with counterparts from other countries. Also, Ministry of Defense from Bulgaria, Djungir Zakov, and Denmark, Morkan Beskov. I want to especially say that yesterday, with the first communication with a French counterpart, Sébastien Lecornu, who was appointed just recently, 4 days ago, for the position of Minister of Defense. The minister had a conversation for 40 minutes, and besides, Oleksii Hromov thanked France for supplies of artillery equipment, self-propelled artillery equipment that are very efficient in the war. Those contacts are very necessary for cooperation development and to receive necessary weapons that MOD is working on day and night since 24th of February. And also we have good news that we can be proud of. That's regarding medical forces of Armed Forces of Ukraine. Last week in the mobile hospital at one of the front cities of Ukraine, for the first in Ukraine, we made a contemporary laparoscopy surgery of removing this, the kidney at far short. In mobile hospital, there was 2 such surgeries and saved lives of our warriors. And with the thanks of contemporary technologies and professionalism of our military doctors, of military surgeons, the wounded that we're talking about right now, they can walk already. Those surgeries at military trauma of kidneys have no analogies in the world. And we can be proud of Ukrainian military medicine that currently is the first one to face very severe challenges and overcomes those challenges and becomes an example for military doctors around the world. And military surgeons of Ukraine, they keep in line and they implement contemporary small invasive operations to save lives of our wounded. Thank you for the information. I will propose now to listen to our second speaker, Oleksii Hromov. Please, Mr. General, about the situation. Please, more detail if we can. Then Q&A session. Good day. Today, I would like to tell you about the operative situation in our country. The aggressor continues assault in the east of our country, shoots in the contact line, and tries to take full control of firstly on Luhansk, then on Donetsk region in their administrative boundaries of those regions. They have more manpower and equipment, but regardless of that, they could not reach this goal until today. The occupants, Russian occupants, they continue hitting with missiles and more or less on infrastructure of Ukraine, have heavy artillery fire on Ukrainian cities that have that induce deaths of civilians. In Kharkiv direction, it had fire activity to prevent our military from coming to the state border, reaching the state border, and tries to improve the tactical position. And does that near Chernova has no success. Shot at our positions near Drubizhne, Chernovo-Cherkasska, and Ruski-Tishki. On Sloviansk direction, the main effort, they focus on keeping the rep position, reconnaissance, and fire effect on our positions, and renewing the assault. The enemy has severe losses on personnel and tries to make improving the positions. Tries to assault near Bogorodichne of Donetsk region, but has no success. In Liman, Severodonetsk, and Bakhmut directions, they try to break the resistance of our troops and tries to surround our troops near Donetsk and Lysychansk, and tries to reach the administrative boundaries of Lugansk region, near Limansk region. Acute assaults with aviation and artillery support, they try to assault and tries to fully occupy Limansk. And the enemy tries to cross the river Seversky-Donetsk near Belogorodka and Zhornivka. In Severodonetsk direction, with support of artillery and military aviation, tries to assault but has no success. Tries to break the transport communication and attacks the bridges between Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. A focus in Bakhmut's direction, tries to break defenses of our military and tries to take control of the road path of Bakhmut to Lysychansk, and tries to further assault on Lysychansk. To support the assaulting military, it uses also private military companies of Wagner near Popasna. On Avdiivska, Novopavlovsk, and Zaporizhzhia direction, there is less intensive assault actions, but has mortar fire and artillery fire on our positions. On Kyiv direction, the enemy tries to break our defenses near Oleksandrivka, Marivka, Stepka, Novomykhailivka, but has no success. In Mykolaiv direction, the enemy has no active military actions, tries to control the territory of Kherson region, and has fire activity on our military, provides logistics and engineer activity for their troops. Tries to break the defense of our by a company near Tversky, but has no success. Further, the enemy will probably, in Mykolaiv direction, focus on keeping the positions and preventing our troops from transferring the reserves. Also, there is a probability of assault on some directions to improve the tactical positions and probably reach the administrative border of Kherson region. In Volinska, there are no signs of assaults of the enemy. Also, there are movements of launch Iskander rockets, missiles, to Linetsk of Brest region. And it's possible that they will be engaged with to attack objects in the west of Ukraine. In Syrsky operation regional, the enemy tries to cover the conduct of the border in Bryansk Oblast and prevents movement of our troops to certain regions. Has artillery and mortar fire on our troops near Mizhenivka, Krasnopelia, Slavgorod, and Tebachivka. In Bessarab operative region, Russian secret services use means to destabilize the situation in the region, tries to disseminate information about mining of object of social infrastructure and state objects to induce panics of civilians who live of Transnistria, and also to increase the level of red tourist threat. But those means have no actually impact on, or little impact on the local civilians. But they will continue provocation, we think. The armed forces of Transnistria have regular activity. There were no changes of Russian forces at Pridnestrovia that were noted by us. In Black Sea region, with two troops of ships, with two groups, they hinder the maritime in there. There are two carriers of high precision weapons, Admiral Essence and Admiral Makhanov. They have up to 16 cruise missiles of maritime base. At 6 a.m. today, since 19th and 6 p.m., they had 63 missile and several artillery shots at infrastructure. And since yesterday, they shot at Solidar, Bakhmut, Kramatorsk, Bakhmutsky, Ustinivka, Pokrovsk, Liman, Slavyansk, Zaporizhia, Kryvyi Rih, and others. Aviation strikes were on Limansk, Severodonetsk, and Avdiivka. I simply want to say that Russian Federation, since the first day of war, commits war crimes, attack and capturing of nuclear infrastructure like Zaporizhia or Chernobyl destruction, and Kakhovska hydroelectric station is a violation of Article 53 of the Protocol of Geneva Convention of 1949 of defense of those that are in structure that is dangerous. After capturing those objects, close to them, they deployed the point of administration of that level. Near Kakhovka, they have administration level of Southern Military Ground and 49th Army of the enemy. At that, occupant take no effort to sustain those objects in proper levels, which could lead to ecological catastrophe. Currently, in Kakhovsky hydroelectric station, they dump a lot of water, wastewater, because two hydroaggregates don't work, that occupants do not allow the professionals to fix, which led to certain drop of Novokakhovska and makes threat of certain villages and Kherson city. I want to give you an example of use of certain samples of weapons that were received by Ukraine from our dear international partners. One example means artillery division of 155 mortars of M757. Distance from position to target is 20 kilometers. Target, you'll know that crossing near Bilogorivka. Results: 5 direct hits on pontons, 40 hits on tanks and armor vehicles of the enemy. Also, during the use of with relocation of reconnaissance or NTPQ 36, the artillery units demonstrated high precision and efficiency. Yes, we lose less ammo with this, 10, 12. Next to also in Soviet, it was 48 to 60 rounds. The amount of M7 over a day is about 20 targets. They hit about 20 targets a day. The results of analysis show high precision of shots and ability of high maneuver of fire, depending on the amount of tasks. Weapons that we receive from partner countries gives us a lot of help. Therefore, indubitably, it will be very useful for us to free the territories. Summarizing, I want to mention that regardless that the losses, heavy losses that the enemy suffers and low morale of the enemy, they invest a lot of money into war with us and put more and more non-trade personnel and try to grab more and more of our land. But they are close to exhausting their forces. We have a lot of work ahead, but we have no other solution other than rebuff the enemy, and we will win. Thank you, Mr. General. And I want to invite you for a Q&A session from journalists, dear colleagues. You can ask questions, please. Please tell me, and MOD and General Staff, how do you assess the situation and accumulation of Russian forces near Chernihiv? And does it induce a threat of further assault in Kyiv, renewing the assault in Kyiv? And Severodonetsk, do they try to hold the positions? Can you say more details? Is there a threat for surrounding our forces? How difficult that is, actually? More in the military part, the armed forces representative will say, Mr. General Hromov, regarding the threat to Kyiv. We must be aware that the threat to Kyiv will always be. It will always be there. To destroy Kyiv and to destroy the government of Ukraine is the fastest way to conquer Ukraine. Therefore, we just have to live with that with the thought that it will constantly be like that, this threat. Regarding the group near Chernihiv of the enemy. Currently, we observe certain movements of detachments, but the signs to make this attack group, there are no signs for that. Regarding of tasks of our groups near Severodonetsk, the situation is military, it's difficult. The enemy continues aviation hits, artillery fire on our troops, and uses the classical scheme, as on the majority of the plots of contact. First, they use the bombard aviation, then stormtroop aviation, then artillery, and only then directly the land troops, the ground forces are involved. But thanks to resistance of our military and their strength, the situation is difficult but stable. We use all means to maintain the situation stable.
You hear me? From Adamandia Lioliou from Greek television. I want to ask you, maybe Mr. Hromov, the head of regional and military administration of Lugansk, Mr. Sergei Gaidou, said that the 95% of Lugansk is under control of Russia. Is it any possibility of Ukrainian forces to change the situation, and which is the tactic?
As we emphasized, this, yes, the situation in Lugansk region is difficult, but we try to all the forces to change the situation. Each detachment, each service person works in accordance with the total vision of the commander, with a great plan of a commander-chief. Yes, right now there's more forces with the enemy, in aviation and artillery, but we do everything possible. As we emphasized in the speech, to speed up the process of our victory, it would be our equipment, military equipment from our partners that would speed up our victory. More questions, please. Alexander Borisenko, Belsat, Belarus General. Ms. Hanna, how do you assess the military drills in Belarus that will happen until the end of May? Is there a threat for Ukraine and for opening the other front on the north of the country? The territory of Belarus is used by Russia for aggressive actions. I want to recall that according to norms of international law, the country that provides territory to the third country for military aggression is also an accomplice of that war crime, which is called aggression or war. Regarding the military drills, we saw that Russia is using that to convert the escalation and penetrating other countries. And of course, the drill is one of the means to sustain the military capabilities of armed forces, and to demonstrate that as drills. Therefore, the threat and use of territory of Belarus for strikes from that territory it sustains the threat. Also, there is a threat of using the Transnistria region of Moldova. And last question, Viktor Melikov, CGTN. Please tell me, are there any current works on organizing the humanitarian corridors where there should be and where they operate? And what is the situation with Solidar right now, where Artem Salt is? Want to say regarding humanitarian corridor, that's not our institution, that's Ministry of Reintegration. So you have to address them that issue. Thank you. And Solidar, is the situation there? Thank you for joining us. That is Hanna Maliar, Deputy Minister of Defense, and Oleksii Hromov, Brigade General. I thank you for that information.